In the winter of 1564, Queen Elizabeth I is said to have slipped through the gilded gates of Whitehall, dressed not in velvet and pearls, but in the coarse, soot-stained cloak of a London merchant's widow. By lamplight, she walked among the taverns and open markets, smelling the bitter tang of coal smoke, hearing the gossip of her subjects as if she were a stranger. Such ventures, though whispered about, were dangerous. One wrong glance, one loyalist who recognized her, could have sparked chaos in the streets. Yet Elizabeth's desire to see her realm through unfiltered eyes outweighed the risks. She returned before dawn, her hem lined with soot, her ears filled with truths her advisers would never dare to tell. Few know that beneath the serene arches of the Chapel Royal lies a vault not of treasure, but of chains. In the early 1600s, during the reign of James I, a narrow staircase hidden behind an altar panel led to a stone chamber where prisoners of political and religious suspicion were kept. The cold seeped through the walls, and the air was heavy with damp lime and whispered prayers. Some captives were noble-born, their only crime dissenting in private letters. It is said the chapel's choir would sing above their heads while they shivered in darkness, holy hymns drifting down like a cruel reminder of the world they could no longer touch. In a locked drawer within the private chambers of King Charles II rested a map unlike any in royal archives. This parchment, rumored to have been acquired from a dying Dutch explorer, marked territories beyond the known seas, lands rich with strange beasts, rivers of silver, and tribes who had never seen the crest of England. Such discoveries were too dangerous to announce. Rivals would wage wars to reach them. So the king kept it hidden, sometimes unrolling it by candlelight, his fingers tracing coastlines that may never have existed, wondering if the crown's reach could one day extend beyond the edge of the world. In Windsor Castle, Queen Victoria's ladies whispered of a pale woman seen in the dressing chamber, her figure half-faded, her eyes mournful. Records speak of Lady Eleanor, a courtier wrongfully accused of treason 2 centuries earlier, who took her own life in that very room. Servants claimed to hear the rustle of silk when no one was there, or smell rosewater perfume drifting through locked doors. Victoria, never one to shy from the supernatural, allegedly left a single candle burning for our unseen guest each night, a gesture of respect to a sorrow too old for the living to mend. In 1487, King Henry VII hosted a feast so grand it seemed to defy time itself. For 3 days, the great hall at Westminster was alight with torches, the long tables groaning on roasted swans, spiced venison, sugared fruits, and flagons of wine that never ran dry. Minstrels played through the night, and foreign envoys feasted until their voices slurred in a dozen languages. The truth was more political than indulgent. The feast was a calculated display, meant to bind new allies and intimidate enemies with England's wealth. But in the candlelit haze, guests swore it felt like they had stepped into a realm where daylight had been banished forever.
Hidden in the back shelves of the Tower of London's armory was a leather-bound book with a chilling purpose. It contained not just the names of those who had been executed by royal command, but the names of those scheduled for death, sometimes weeks before they'd been arrested. Written in the precise, clean hand of the royal executioner, each entry carried a date, a charge, and a terse note on how the condemned should meet their fate. Few who saw the book could forget it, for it was not merely history, it was prophecy, written in ink and sealed with the crown's authority. While most of the palace slept, a select few joined the royal falconer in a strange nocturnal ritual. In the moonlit meadows beyond the palace walls, hooded hawks were released to hunt under the stars. The air was sharp with night frost, and the only sounds were the rustle of feathers and the distant cry of prey. These hunts were not for sport, but for omens. The direction the hawk flew, the quarry it caught, were read like messages from the divine. Kings and queens have made decisions of war and peace based on the silent path of a bird in the midnight air. One rainy evening in 1671, the tower's guards awoke to horror. The crown jewels were gone. The thief, Colonel Thomas Blood, had walked into the jewel house disguised as a harmless cleric. He and his accomplices knocked the keeper unconscious, flattened the royal crown with a mallet to hide it under a cloak, and fled. But fate intervened. They were caught at the tower gates. Strangely, instead of execution, Blood was granted a royal pardon and even rewarded with land. Some whispered that Blood had not stolen for greed, but for secrets, perhaps secrets worth more than any gem in the kingdom. In a locked chest in the palace infirmary lay a collection of vials sealed in black wax, each containing powders and tinctures banned by church and crown. The royal physician, sworn to heal, also knew how to kill and how to disguise either outcome as a miracle. These remedies, drawn from the East, could lull a man into a week's sleep or stop his heart in a breath. Officially, they were never used. Unofficially, history holds too many sudden royal deaths for coincidence to be comforting. When King Richard I, better known as Richard the Lionheart, died in 1199, his body was buried in one place, his entrails in another, and his heart in yet another, Rouen Cathedral in Normandy. The act was not mere superstition, but a symbolic gesture, placing his heart in the city he loved most, a city he saw as the heart of his kingdom. For centuries, pilgrims came to kneel before the silver casket, believing that to stand near his heart was to feel the courage of the Lionheart himself.